Ready?
Okay. Hey, if we're keeping track of what I'm using right now, it's a pizza. That is what what is keeping the camera here.
Welcome to the Nerdentials podcast, starring your hosts, Joe Tweedy, Matthew Johnson, Nick Thomas, and Lynn Dudley.
Welcome to Nerdentials, your weekly dose of the nerdy essentials covering film, TV, video games, and comic books. I'm your host, Joe Tweeton, and today, my fellow nerds, I am joined with two of my closest nerds. Over here we've got, on the other side of me, the Nick Thomas. How's it going?
Fantastic.
And the Lynn Dungeon.
Hello, back again, guys.
There it is. I you know what, Lynn? I now look forward to your introduction every week. It's become nostalgic for me, if I may say so.
Gotta get that signature down,
And on a side note, guys, if you just lean back a little bit, anyone on YouTube right now will see we're all randomly, completely unplanned, sporting Superman shirts. I can't, you know what? Yeah, no shame here. No shame here. This is not a Superman special. We're not deep diving into anything super or manish. However, we are supporting fandom always. Guys, it is our first Friday night in a long time. We usually record on the weekends at some point, but it's been a minute since we've locked it down on a Friday night. Nick? Lynn? Thoughts?
It's good to be back.
Amen.
For sure.
Cheers. Cheers to anyone. Soda, water, alcohol, whatever your poison is tonight. Cheers.
Tink, tink.
Tink, tink, tink. That being said, guys, we're going to have just a classic Nerdentials episode tonight. We are aware a lot of nerdy news has dropped over this last week. At the time of this recording, we are compiling notes for our next recording because we want to really give you, the listeners and viewers, a detailed breakdown of all these announcements. And we're talking about the D23 specifically, the Disney-centric convention that went on over the last week, covering a lot of things with movies and television, especially with the Disney Plus service. There will be a few things we mentioned tonight that relate to those, but we're going to hold off until next week. And guys, we'll break everything down as a group, so rest assured we are here to cover it. But for tonight, we're going to bust out some movie topics and maybe a couple TV reviews for you. So strap in and enjoy the ride.
Tune in, turn off, turn up.
Don't turn off, but definitely turn up. Yeah. That being said, guys, a little bit of housekeeping before we kick things off. Guys, it's official. I gotta make this announcement. We as a podcast are now in more places than before. I was always broad in the past. We're always on the iTunes platform for Apple Podcasts. However, we are now officially on Stitcher Radio and Spotify. Everyone's got Spotify. All you Android phone users out there, guys, we are now appealing to everyone. I know, Lynn, isn't that crazy? We're now in more places than ever. So, guys, help.
Wacky wavy inflatable tube men. Woo!
Woohoo! So, guys, in all seriousness, though, uh, guys, if you like the content you get every week from us, leave us a review. 5-star especially helps on whatever platform you're listening to: Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. We're on all those platforms on audio. And, of course, we're on YouTube. Go search out Nerdentials on YouTube.com if you want to see our ugly mugs in action as we're talking. And above all things, go to nerdentialsmedia.com.
.com.
That is where you'll find everything. All videos, playthroughs, let's plays, reviews, nerdy articles, and the podcast itself. Guys, we are all up in that business. Go check it out. Give us some support. Show us some love.
Yep.
And I want to put out a challenge to anyone new or anyone who's been listening for a while. If you guys put out a review on any of those platforms I just mentioned, even on YouTube, I will read it out at the beginning of our next episode and any episode going forward. We would love to keep in contact with you guys. We'd like to know if we're doing good, if we're doing bad. You know, hey, we like the feedback, so throw it out there and we'll give you guys a shout out. That being said, guys, let's jump into our first topic for this episode. Let's get into Movie Matters. Guys, welcome to Movie Matters. Up front, we do have a couple noteworthy news topics that we want to dive into, and then maybe a review or two. So, let's kick things off with some news. Nicholas, you gave me a few ideas up front before we hit record. Why don't you throw out your first bullet point for tonight?
For Movie Matters?
Mm-hmm.
Following Marvel Disney has gone and announced and confirmed a character that one of our well-known Starks are going to be playing. And when I say Stark, I don't mean Tony. I mean,
No.
he played as Jon Snow, the son of Eddard Stark from Game of Thrones. He is going to be playing the character of Black Knight in Marvel's Eternals. New movie that's going to be coming out for Phase 4.
Yes, and we covered those movie lineups, guys, in our last episode. It was during the San Diego Comic-Con, but the Kit Harington casting we didn't know about till this week. Mm-hmm. So, let's open it up across the nerd table here. What do we think about that? Quick side note, before we jump into our thought on Kit Harington, Nick, do you have just kind of a brief summary of who this character is? Do you have any kind of comic knowledge on his origin?
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you lay it out for us?
All right. The Black Knight, his character that he's going to be playing is Dane Whitman. Dane Whitman is the descendant of the original Black Knight. He picks up the mantle of the Black Knight to bring honor back to his name and bring honor to that name. In comic books, he was seen originally as one of the Defenders and was killed by the Enchantress. But he was protecting Captain Britain. Now, it all depends on where they're going to go with this character. It all depends on if they're going to go with the scientific version of him or the version where he is gifted the amulet by the Lady of the Lake. Scientific version of it, he pretty much, it's called the neural blade. The neural blade is a weapon that he's made that's almost like a lightsaber. The laser on it will cut through any organic material, but if it hits something that's living, it produces a surge of energy through their body that messes with their neural pathways and will incapacitate most people with 1 or 2 hits.
Interesting.
He had a genetically altered horse with wings, almost like a Pegasus, but it was all genetically altered and built that way. In that version. The other version, he's given an amulet by the Lady of the Lake that gives him the Sword of Light, the Shield of Night, the Shield of Night, or Shield of Dark or Night. I forget the name of it. Just a second. I had some notes. The Shield of Night can absorb energy, and he could express it through the sword in the same form of energy. And of course, he had mystical armor that protected him. Quite literally, he's a knight in Marvel superheroes, running around with sword and shield and beating up bad guys.
Can I throw this out there?
Yeah.
Is he being typecasted by Marvel?
I think he's being typecasted by everyone.
Well, the real question is he going to grow his beard back out? Because on his SNL appearance, when he went clean-shaven after Season 8 was finished filming, fans were a little not too cordial with his appearance.
Yes.
And
I agree.
And anyone not in the know on the HBO series Game of Thrones, Kit Harington, Jon Snow, was a dark knight on a wall, had a very black appearance, so it's kind of an ironic transition for him.
Can I throw this out there?
Yeah.
Have you seen him in Silent Hills 2?
Yes.
He doesn't have a beard there either.
I have not seen him in that, Lynn. Interesting.
I'm trying to remember. I saw a movie with him in it recently.
Oh, that was... Drawing a blank.
What was that movie?
Awkward pause.
That's okay. They'll get over the awkward pause. But no, he's been in a movie recently, and it wasn't crazy, but it was pretty good. I liked it.
It was more of a romantic drama, right?
I think it wasn't recently. It was an older movie, but I just recently saw it. It was MI5. He was pretty much an agent.
Oh, yeah, that was 2015. Interesting. He was also recently in 3 episodes of a series called Gunpowder, which is another, ironically, HBO show.
Gunpowder, isn't that the Remember?
It's a British activist, Guy Fawkes, and a group of provincial English Catholics plan to blow up the House of Lords and kill King James I in the early 17th century. It was a miniseries that only ran 3 episodes, and it was in 2017.
Yeah.
On HBO.
It is what you're thinking of there, Nick. The V for Vendetta original.
Yeah. His thing he always says, the remember the 5th of November.
Yeah.
It was based off of...
Blows.
Yeah, it was based off a real event that happened in that rebellion.
Interesting. So. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. He must have done that in between recording the last season of Game of Thrones.
No, no, him playing Dane Whitman could definitely be interesting. It fits his toolbox that he's good with, and it'll get him into the superhero genre.
It'll throw him into the MCU officially.
Yeah. And there's if they bring in the Black Knight, there's some interesting ways they could go with that into other stuff. So I'm
On a,
interested to see where they go with it.
yeah, and on a side note, I think we can officially rule out that based on that character, he's not going to be an Eternal because that's an Earthbound character. That's not, you know what I mean? Like the Eternals were created from the Celestials.
Mhm.
He has a different origin than that, right?
Yeah,
So
he's quite literally
yeah,
a descendant of someone who he's trying to make up for what he did.
right. So that's very interesting, dude. I'm excited to see what they do with the Eternals. We covered the casting and directorship and all that in a previous episode. So and with Kit Harington joining the group, I'm excited about it. I look
Yeah.
forward to that.
No, but in the past, he's worked with the Defenders, Captain Britain. He's worked with the Avengers. So they may bring him into the Avengers in Phase 4.
Yeah, this is true because I mean with Iron Man not being at the forefront at this point, and with the future female characters of Avengers entering in with the future lineup like Thor, Love and Thunder, with Jane Foster becoming the mighty Thor, aka the female Thor. There's going to be a few new faces for the Avengers in the next couple years. So
And there's a whole nother way they could do with it, too, that I kind of hope they would. Because you also got to think of, okay, there's the Avengers in the MCU. If there was a superhero team in America, it would make sense that other countries would try to make their own superhero teams.
right.
So the Defenders later get based overseas in Europe with Captain Britain, the Black Knight. Doctor Strange joins them for a while. And it's kind of like the Avengers Europe.
Right. Yeah, and they had
Yeah, they might end up with more teams of superheroes working together or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the MCU is going to be a wild ride in the next 2 years, especially with the multiverse implications. Um, so,
And Spider-Man being gone.
well, hey, we haven't talked about it on air yet. I want to make a quick point. I don't have quotes, but we've read all the articles and stuff up to this point, guys. So I think we can have a semi-brief conversation on this sort of breaking news that happened over the last few days. So I'll segue into that point here now. So Sony and Marvel had a contract of making 5 films with Spider-Man in it. 2 of them were solo Spider-Man films put out by Sony, but with the production help of Marvel and Kevin Feige helping with the production side of things. And then Spider-Man was in 3 MCU films as a cameo character, starting with Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. So Spider-Man was in 3 Marvel movies, 2 Sony films. The contract ended essentially, and a month or 2 ago they had began negotiations. And so here's what we do know as far as facts. And still nothing is completely official, but at this point Sony's backed out completely because originally for the solo films, Marvel was asking only 5% of the profits, and Sony keeps the rest. And then for the Marvel movies, I don't know if Sony was getting anything, but Marvel was essentially getting 100% of all those Avenger profits. And in the end, when renegotiating, I guess, just from what I recall and reading, that Disney had upped it to requesting 25% from their total profits from any additional Spider-Man films to be made. And then they sat on it for a month or 2. Sony didn't respond or didn't accept that offer. And then I don't know why Disney made this move, but they then decided to up it to a 50-50 split, kind of essentially pushing Sony out because Sony already. Because here's the detail that a lot of people are missing: Marvel gets 100% of all the merchandising rights. That means toys, posters, anything that comes out of those Spider-Man films. The only thing Sony makes money on off of Spider-Man is the movies itself, because the only thing Sony owns in rights is Sony owns the rights to all the Spider-Verse stuff for films only. So they can make as many movies as they want, but they don't get anything from the toys, the collectibles, or anything else. They don't get anything from the comic book sales. They get nothing except the movie profits. And so, rightfully so, Sony is kind of justified in wanting the majority profit on the solo movies because that's the only money they get from the Spider-Man rights that they owned. And one of the big things I want to throw out there, and you guys can give me your counter thoughts or concluding thoughts or points on this, is that I feel that Disney made this move in requesting more money because I don't know the exact numbers, but when they acquired Fox, the last couple Fox properties that came out in theaters bombed. Like the Dark Phoenix movie bombed a month ago, and Disney officially owned them, and so all those profits that bombed, basically Disney already went into the negative, buying up all of Fox and paying off their debts, and they lost a lot of money on the movie that came out after they took full ownership of it. So from a business standpoint, Disney's like, this is petty and silly. From us down on the ground, on the dirt level, we're like, are you kidding me? They're making billions of dollars in movies, and Disney is whining about needing more money from the Spider-Man co-production they did with Sony because crap, we're losing a lot on Fox right now, and we can't profit from Fox for another couple of years till we start making movies on our end. So what do? They take it out on Sony and say, "Hey, Sony, we need more money if we're going to keep making Spider-Man movies for you." And Sony is looking at it as, you guys make all the money from merchandising. The only thing we get is money from the movies. And right now you've put us in a really good position to keep moving with Tom Holland. Because here, on a side note, concluding my full point here, we're not losing Tom Holland as Spider-Man. We're just losing the MCU influence and connection. Because Tom Holland is still contracted for 2 more solo Spider-Man films, Spider-Man 3 and 4. So whatever those end up being, Sony is still keeping the writers from the last 2 movies. Just Kevin Feige is the only one that's not going to be involved. So on the one hand, I think Sony is going to do okay on the next 2 movies. Maybe they're not going to make $1 billion, but I think they're going to do okay. And we still get to see Tom Holland as Spider-Man. On the downside, they now have to remove themselves from the Iron Man influence. We can't have Nick Fury as an influencer anymore. Anything that the MCU brought to Spider-Man now has to kind of move away from them if they're going to continue with any solo stories. So, bottom line, I think Sony will be fine. I think this was inevitable. Nothing is permanent, and maybe Sony in a few years wants to renegotiate. Maybe Spider-Man comes back to the MCU at some point. There's also been the people have thrown out the idea that maybe Sony might sell Spider-Man back to the MCU, but they would probably ask for $10 billion. And if they did, it would be a permanent thing, which is why they would ask for that much money. Did you guys know that 20 years ago, they bought Spider-Man for $7 million? That's it. $7 million. 20 years ago, they bought the rights from Marvel, comic book studios before Marvel became a movie production company. They bought the rights from Marvel for $7 million 20 years ago. And that includes the entire universe. That includes Venom. The Venom solo movie almost made $900 million on its own. No one expected that, but it did. And the solo movies, the Sam Raimi trilogy grossed over $1 billion collectively. And Marvel saw that Spider-Man Far From Home grossed $1.1 billion. The first Spider-Man movie on its own to gross over $1 billion. And so, of course, Disney's like, hey, we need a cut of that. We made you guys $1 billion. And the one clause in their contract, I'll be done after this, sorry. The one clause in their contract was if Disney did not help Sony make $1 billion on the Spider-Man film, they were allowed to walk away. They were allowed to walk away from the contract early if Disney had not generated $1 billion at least. That was the requirement. And guess what? Disney made $1 billion on Far From Home. They built it up and produced it and helped it make $1 billion. And Disney only got 5% of that. I'm sorry, 5% of $1 billion is a nice chunk. But now Disney's like, all right, we need some more now if we're going to keep working together. So anyway.
Which wasn't a bad ask.
No, it was. Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, they should have started up high in negotiations, like, hey, we want 50-50, and then Sony could have been like, no, that's too high. And then Disney could have worked their way down. Instead, they started low and then shot through the roof, and then Sony's like, we're out.
But the other thing you didn't include in that argument, though, in the deal that they decided to change, up until now, Sony has been doing all the producing of the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, for the solo films.
Okay. Disney, what they had proposed, the Disney Marvel, was that they take a 50-50 split. Not only on the profit of whatever movies, but on the production cost. So they would help produce it, help make it, help everything.
Yeah.
They wanted 50-50 of the responsibility of making the movies because they wanted it to be an actual true partnership.
Right.
Now, the other thing is them asking for more of a share of it wasn't that much of an ask. It was actually a smart ask. And Sony, I'm sorry, like every other thing they do, saw money signs and said, oh, we made this much money off of the Far From Home. That's a stupid idea. Let's make more money and screw Marvel out. I'm sorry. That's the way I'm going to take it as a fan. They quite literally turned down the option for someone to help them produce their movies, to have access to other Marvel properties other than the Spider-Verse. Marvel Disney, up until that point, was willing to share in the Spider-Man movies for the sheer fact that it was in the MCU.
But
So
Spider-Man
they
Into the
slipped-
Spider-Verse nearly grossed $1 billion on its own with no Marvel influence.
Yes, as an animated movie.
What does that have to do with any of it? Sony made a film on their own about Spider-Man, and it grossed more than most of their solo films up to this point. Doesn't that speak to some credit for their creativity and ability in some way? There were real actors behind their voices.
People wanted to see Miles Morales.
Exactly, so Sony can introduce Miles Morales on their own. Again, like bring it into the thing and they could go the multiverse on their own is what I'm saying.
They had already introduced him.
What are you talking about?
Spider-Man Homecoming?
They...
Donald Glover's
No.
character?
That was
Is
an
Uncle Aaron?
They alluded to introducing him. It was not a, hey, this is Miles Morales taking on a new Spider-Man role.
No, they very, very purposely put him in there because they knew they were going to make the Into the Spider-Verse.
Perhaps. It's not connected directly to the live action stuff though. It's kind of
I know.
They're doing spin-offs of the animated show moving forward now even.
Well, no, they put it in that movie. So when this Into the Spider-Verse came out and people made the connections, they're eventually going to bring him into the Spider-Verse.
I'm not discrediting that idea. I don't disagree with you at all.
But what I'm getting at is
Nick, I know you don't like
Just-
Sony, so it's easy for you to take this stand. Isn't it? A little bit? A little biased here? Like, isn't it easy for you to defend Sony on this? Or, no, I'm sorry.
Tom
Isn't it
Holland's
easy for you to
Spider-Man-
attack Sony? That's what I meant. Sorry.
Tom Holland's Spider-Man would not be what it was without Marvel. I'm sorry.
I co-sign that completely. I don't disagree with that at all.
And Kevin Feige's oversight to help with it has made the actual movies what it is. They with the deal with Marvel buying Disney and then Sony walking away Marvel buying Fox, Disney Marvel buying Fox, and Sony walking away afterwards was the stupidest thing they could have done. There are so many tie-ins for the Spider-Man universe with characters they just got from Fox. Deadpool, Fantastic Four. Most of his career as a superhero revolves around those characters.
Well,
And they quite literally slit their throats and said, no, I guess we don't need those characters.
on the other side,
only
Nick,
people
the
that are
Rogues
gonna-
Gallery is very extensive outside of the MCU. What I mean is the Spider-Man specific Rogues Gallery is pretty
Yes.
extensive.
The Rogues Gallery is pretty extensive. But the issue is,
Sinister Six, man.
unless you follow the comic books, you don't know what that Rogues Gallery is. And when they start throwing in characters, people aren't going to have a clue who the hell they are.
The same could be said for anything that the MCU has thrown at us in the last 10 years.
I
Nick,
would have to disagree.
no, how can you disagree with that? You just said, hold on. I'm not arguing. I'm just making a debatable point here. You said that without the MCU, essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, you were basically alluding that without the MCU, no one would know half of that Rogues Gallery to begin with. Now, counterpoint-wise, can't you say the same about the MCU had they not explained half the origins for most of the B-list characters in the MCU that most people wouldn't know where they came from? Don't tell me that Ant-Man is any less or any more popular than, let's say, the Green Goblin. My point being, the MCU found ways to introduce side characters that most average people that don't read comic books at all hadn't known about before. They popularized Doctor Strange. They popularized, who knew who the Vision was or Scarlet Witch prior to the Avengers films? If you were not a comic book reader, if you've never touched a comic book, can you say you would know who they were outside of the movies until MCU gave you a nice little backstory to them? That's all I'm saying. Like Winter Soldier, who's that? Who's the Red Skull unless you've picked up a Captain America comic book?
And he's been in the animated movies.
Okay, you're grasping at some straws here, okay? I'm just saying, when we're strictly talking movies, here's the thing, Nick, I'm on your side completely when we're talking about, Sony made probably a bad decision to walk away from it. Like, at the ground zero, when it comes to, like, would they profit more or less? Yeah, I think they'll profit less by making this choice to walk away. But the argument to say that they can't grow, at least from what they've learned from Kevin Feige, I would say would be like maybe a short-sighted to say that you don't see them as being able to benefit somewhat from working with Marvel. Are they going to do as well without them? No, I don't think they will do as well. I think they'll survive still. They got to do better than The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. Cord. Yeah, you know what? Hold on.
But when
I just dusted Lynn. Oh, sorry, all you podcast listeners. You really got to come to YouTube to see what just happened. I literally snapped my fingers and Lynn dusted away.
like Spider-Man out of the MCU
Oh, way to make it
for
relevant.
the second time.
Oh, too soon. Way to make it relevant, Lynn. Nick. Oh, speaking of Lynn. Sorry. Slip of the tongue. But, guys, quick side note. In all honesty, Lynn had to bounce tonight. he had some kids to deal with, and he was being extra tired. We are recording fairly late, and I know you guys haven't heard from him in the last few minutes of this recording. That's because he was sleeping. If you guys were watching YouTube, you would have seen it.
Yep.
Love you, Lynn. Shout out to you, bro. But you know what, guys? Me and Nick, in the face of all this, will carry forward, and we will continue the rest of this episode.
Carry on my wayward song.
Can you guys dig? Let's anyway, Nick. Let's wrap up. We've talked a little bit of length here. No apologies, fans. This is some hot topics here. So I'm not gonna say any more. I've made my points. I'm gonna let Nick wrap up his thoughts on the MCU Sony split. Nick, what do you got?
Before I get into that, though, I just got to say something. I actually like the fact that me and you are the most confrontational about topics, and we know it.
We love each other to death.
No, but
yeah.
it's great that we can actually take two sides of a topic. Usually throughout the show, everyone's kind of on the same thing and on the same side on everything, but it's kind of cool that we can
and you know
debate.
what? And you know what, Nick? That's why we need each other in this, because if you weren't here, it would be a one-sided show, and then people would think we were being paid off by someone. Nope, you're right. Fans, we are delivering raw thoughts all the time. No worries. So, Nick, counter your final thoughts.
Yeah, my final thoughts on the Sony Disney thing, Sony Disney Marvel thing. With them adding the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, I know that Marvel wanted Kevin Feige to more focus on that instead of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are blaming the side of Sony. A lot of people are blaming Marvel, Disney. Some people are even blaming the fact that X-Men is there, because now Kevin Feige has so much to do that he can't focus on Spider-Man anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever the reason is, the thing that I'm intrepid about is how they're going to address it in either universes. How is Marvel going to address the fact that Spider-Man's no longer there, when they had put all their eggs in one basket that Tom Holland, Spider-Man, was going to take over the role of Tony Stark?
They were setting that up. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And how is Sony going to address the fact that people like Nick Fury, Happy isn't there, Marvel properties aren't there, and that he isn't directly tied in with the Avengers anymore? Are they going to hit it with alternate universe stuff, because they said that's something happening now because of Mysterio's character?
Multiverse,
because
man. Yeah.
The end of the movie alluded to some crazy stuff.
Well, to accent that point, I would also remind everyone and you that we do have a Doctor Strange film coming in a year or so, entitled Doctor Strange in the Multiverse. So, although Spider-Man seems to have been the catalyst for that opportunity, I strongly still believe the MCU will continue moving forward with the concepts of multiverses somehow, and especially with Doctor Strange, I feel that's a fairly open window for them to do.
I don't think Spider-Man was actually the catalyst for it.
Well,
It was the scene in the last Endgame movie where Hulk is talking with the Ancient One. They actually talk about the multiverse, and then the little things that happened afterwards, like Loki, all those things. I'm not going to go into it just in case people haven't seen it.
Right.
But
you're
there's
right. No,
things that could have happened there. And that's actually the direct spawn of that whole idea of the multiverse.
I mean, not a spoiler warning. There's no spoilers here, because what I'm about to reference was in a trailer. But in the movie trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home, Nick Fury talks to Spider-Man when introducing him to Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, and they do make a point of referencing. Yeah, they reference the idea that there is a multiverse that was ripped open because of Thanos' snap. So no, he wasn't Spider-Man wasn't the catalyst for it, but because of the MCU connection with Spider-Man, it was heavily referenced in Far From Home. But you're right, Nick. It was all within the MCU side, so even if Spider-Man dips for a while or an extended period of time, they can still move forward with the concept that the snap opened up the possibility of multiverses happening.
Yeah, there has been rumors that Disney, Marvel, and Sony are powering through a deal trying to figure out something new to make it work.
Right.
Even
It's still
after
not a closed door.
Even after Kevin Feige announced that Spider-Man would be departing the MCU. So I'm hoping they pull their heads out of their butts for the fans, and find a good deal for everyone.
I feel they need to just on a personal opinion. Yeah.
And it's I know it's a big money deal. I know there's a lot of money to be had on either side. And somebody could come out on top as the victor. But if you guys try to come out as a victor, the fans are going to be the loser.
Just
try to find out what mutually is appropriate for everyone.
Yeah, and just to soften the blow of that idea, Nick, I completely agree with you at the core of my heart. I still am going, a fan's a fan, and even though the connection of MCU isn't there, I still appreciate and love the fact that Tom Holland is still locked into being Spider-Man, even if he's not being helmed by the MCU head, Kevin Feige. And hopefully Sony can take good care of him over the next 2 movies that they put out. So, in the end, we still get that adorably cute, wonderful Tom Holland in one way or another, even if the deeper connections aren't there. That's all I want to say. That's all I'm going to say. Anything else, Nick?
Not really. It's just it's
a damn shame it's happening.
I know. I want to see that Peter Parker, Johnny Storm friendship.
I know. I am excited.
I want to see Deadpool and Spider-Man.
I know. The promises of fanfic and canon comics are they're all right there and ripe for picking. And we've mentioned it before. I'll just reiterate. Kevin Feige said, Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, said when asked about Deadpool, he said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He literally, with that statement put out in the press, out in the world right there, he said it himself. The CEO of Disney said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So what they've done with the rated R Ryan Reynolds portrayal looks like Bob Iger doesn't want to screw with success.
They also said that Ryan Reynolds is one of the few characters that isn't going to be recast.
Exactly. And not to go off any major tangents, we'll wrap up with this statement, but just to remind listeners, if they haven't heard this before, they're planning on continuing doing solo Deadpool movies, and it looks like they'll probably keep it rated R. On the upside, there has been rumors and talks of him being implemented either through cameos or secondary roles or more in MCU films, and in my opinion, I think it'd be incredible because the way Deadpool works best is when he's fourth wall breaking. And I don't think, here, give me your opinion, Nick. I don't think, for me personally, I don't think him headlining in an MCU film would be appropriate if they want to keep the PG-13 rating. However, if they put him in a secondary role where he's not the lead, they can completely keep him within the PG-13 role, and through his fourth wall breaking, they can bleep out anything that he says that's absurd. And still, because the thing with Deadpool is that in the comics, no one else sees the audience except him. Even in X-Force, he'll say something to the audience, and someone within X-Force will be like, Who are you
Who are you
talking
talking
to? Exactly. I see them still being able to do that in lesser, not the bulk of a X-Men movie, but
There's one other character
yeah.
you see do that a lot,
Who?
and I'm hoping we get it eventually.
Who?
Howard the Duck.
Dude, in a breakdown of the Endgame battle,
Oh yeah,
the Russo brothers actually put him in. If you still frame one of the shots, you actually see Howard the Duck on the battlefield very briefly.
and Nova Prime.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Oh, wait, no. No. I watched it. You talking about Nova?
Nova.
You gotta show me the screenshot, dude, because I watched a breakdown and the Russos claimed he was in the scene, but a couple people did a thorough search and they couldn't find a clear
I found a
enough
video
image.
that they found it, and all it is you see the helmet between two heads.
Okay.
They kept it very, very back there, but you can definitely tell
I know
that it's
which scene. I think I know
Prime
what
helmet.
Yeah, I think through the shots I saw, I think I know what you're referencing. That one was really, really brief. The Howard the Duck one, it's a freaking tiny little duck in the middle of the battle
with a
scene.
gigantic cannon.
Yeah. I'll try to pull up the images for this, guys, and show you guys in the podcast, but go look it up. It's out there.
But to wrap up the Sony Spider-Man thing, I just hope the best for both properties and both people on either side. No matter my feelings on who I'm blaming on it,
For the fans, I just say.
I want it to happen for the fans, and I hope that this doesn't deter Tom Holland. I know he's already made comments that he's still going to play Spider-Man, but when he signed up to be Spider-Man, he signed up to be Spider-Man in the MC universe.
But he was, and maybe PR told him to say certain things, but he did say at D23. 'Cause the funny thing is, he was at D23 with Chris Pratt because they are doing voice acting for a new Pixar film. I don't have the notes from me, guys, which is why we'll cover D23 next week. But they were at the panel at D23, and the one thing he did say, he made a comment to the fans and let everyone know. He said, "I'm still Spider-Man, and I'm having the time of my life." And I think, dude, 22-year-old Tom Holland, I think he's loving just being Spider-Man regardless of the current circumstances. And, I mean, hopefully they can bring him back at some point. He's young enough, dude, that they could keep him being Spider-Man for another decade easily. And I hope they bring him back into the MCU at some point. But that being said, I think that's a good pause, move on point. Nick, we had a couple more movie-based topics of news to briefly talk about. What have we heard?
There was some wonderful announcement. And I gotta say, apparently, this is the year of Keanu.
Right? Especially with John Wick 3, his appearance in Cyberpunk 2077. Oh, I'm so excited. He's everywhere. Oh, and the pre-production of... hold on. Me and Lynn mentioned it in a previous recording. The phone booth, the two boys going back in time.
Oh, Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted. That's in pre-production. That new. They're coming back, and Lynn told me he looks like he just walked off a John Wick set. So he doesn't look like the original version. He's got the beard and everything. So, dude, he's in everything. What else have you heard?
The other thing is he will be returning to a much coveted role that he hasn't seen for 20 years.
What?
It has been announced that we will be getting Matrix 4.
That's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Not
both,
the rapper.
Our man Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, who people know as Neo and Trinity, will be returning to their roles. There hasn't been any speculation about Morpheus and other people like that. There's been some hints towards we might see a younger Morpheus. So it might not even be.
I've heard
Lawrence.
I've heard a lot of speculation, but from what I've recently heard is there's no rebooting or anything. They're gonna just continue moving forward in the universe of the Matrix, and we got Lana Wachowski. I'm not sure about the details of why the two sisters are not coming back as a powerhouse, but we do have a Wachowski sister giving her blessing on this and coming back to direct it. So that the two leads and Lana Wachowski coming in to direct it gives me a little bit of anticipated hope that we might get something more, and I'm hoping it's a fun original take on what they're currently dealing with. That's all I can think of at the moment, you know.
Yeah, no, it sounds like we're gonna get some the whole the universe of the Matrix. The last movie kind of left you wondering what's gonna happen next, and I don't know if this is gonna be.
Yeah, it was kind of open ended, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, it closed. We thought it closed on Neo being the one. But then the Oracle did go into detail, a little backstory, and saying that there were previous ones before that tried to take down the machine. But for some reason, Neo was the one that was meant to do it, even though there had been previous attempts at by others at his journey, and he ended up being the one. So I'm really curious. You know, did the machines come back? Is there a revival in the apocalypse? What are we going to do any kind of time jumping? Like, what is going to happen with this? There's not a lot we know about it right now, other than it's in production and it's going to happen. That's what we do know. So, 2022 it looks like.
2020 is production is going to start. So we can have it anywhere from 2022. It looks like some of the people that are involved in this, we're going to have fourth.
We got Alexander Hemmon and David Mitchell on the writing crew with Lana Wachowski.
Mm-hmm.
And David Mitchell worked on Cloud Atlas. That was with Tom. I didn't want to misspeak. That was with Tom Hanks and Halle Berry. He worked on Sense8 for the last season, that Netflix original series there. And a lot of short films in the interim. And then Alexander Hemmon, he's known for also working on Sense8 and a film called Love Island back in 2014. So I don't know too much about their credits, but Lana Wachowski is heading up the writing team and directing it. So
yeah, you just got to think Matrix, the whole series there. Yes, Keanu Reeves had done some action movies and action stuff, but the Matrix trilogy is what really launched his career into this badass.
Like, yeah, being known at least as an actor.
No, a lot of people don't realize the second movie, The Matrix Reloaded, had the fourth highest opening weekend for a rated R movie ever. It still holds that record.
Nice. Because I think right now Stephen King's It reboot is currently the highest grossing R-rated film at the moment in the number one slot.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though critically and fans were kind of panned on the last two movies, but me personally, were they necessary for me? No. Did I enjoy them? Absolutely. They were fun. I had fun with them. The Matrix was intended as a one and done singular told story, and when the studio was like, this was really lucrative, we want you to go back into production, it made sense for everyone, and fans split down the middle either way. There were people that loved it, and clearly the box office showed that,
Being the world that it is, inside the Matrix and outside the Matrix, there's so much that can happen cinematically. And
the Animatrix was a fun exploration of that.
Oh yeah, they have so much that they can tap into if they wanted to make another 10 movies. It's just the whole world around it. I'd love to see this new movie spawn a TV show.
I would love HBO or even Netflix. Netflix is really good at doing shows. I think over movies, they're really good at series.
One that I think would actually do really good, because I've been watching the series Krypton. Which Sci-Fi got a hold of it.
Well, Sci-Fi had it, and unfortunately, they recently canceled it. I don't know if Netflix is going to pick it up and continue it, but
They have a history.
they have a history of rescuing shows, for sure, and canceling. But Netflix didn't start with this one, so maybe they might bring it back. I don't know, but we got 2 full seasons out there of Krypton.
Well, and who knows? It might even be the DCU that tries to save it.
I mean, I think you can watch it on the DC app right now.
Yep.
And that's a whole nother side conversation. But let's get back to the main points here. So we're excited to see what comes of the Matrix 4.
So excited.
Let's move forward. Is there anything else you want to cover before we get out of movies?
Yes. One last trailer that I recently saw. I don't know if this is one we actually want to do a trailer reaction to, or if we just want to talk about it.
This time around, we'll plan on some trailer reactions in the future. Let's just commentatively react to what you want to bring up here.
This is a series that I grew up with. Growing up in a family of military people, it was something we watched. And it kind of hits at home because it was something I watched with my grandpa, something I watched with my uncles. They are going to be, they've already made it. I saw a trailer that dropped for it. Rambo 5.
Rambo Last Blood.
Last Blood. Yeah.
And the interesting thing about this, let me read the synopsis real quick. It says, Rambo must confront his past and unearth his ruthless combat skills to exact revenge in a final mission. And I find it interesting. These kind of franchises, including horror movies, always like to throw the word final in the title. This one says Last Blood, and in the description here it says final mission. And sometimes years later they always find a reason to bring it back or some way to bring it back because of how well it does. I'd be interested to see. I mean, Sylvester Stallone, man, he's getting up there in age. I don't know if he'd be back after this, but it sounds like this is going to be a final chapter for him, at least as Rambo.
Yeah, I'm actually going to ask, is it just me or does it look like they're Hollywood's taking some of our action heroes from the 80s, the 70s, and giving us some finality? Because everyone is in this whole nostalgia mode with all the TV shows, everything else like that. It only makes sense to bring something iconic as Rambo back to the screen to actually give us some finality of what happened with Rambo.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the trailer, and it just looks like he's enjoying his retirement on a farm, riding around on horses, just doing his thing on a ranch.
Yeah.
And then Rambo releases Rambo.
Also, on a side note that we could have a conversation in another episode about the whole, with the rise of technology, CG capabilities, with Marvel's money out the butt for doing de-aging, we're seeing it more and more in films, and with the rise of deep fakes on the internet, any of you listeners out there, if you guys have been on YouTube recently, there is a plethora of speeches and political speeches and movie trailers where people have gone in, and what a deep fake is they've layered another actor's face on top of the original actor's face for whatever it is. Guys, right now, I just saw a trailer today for Tom Holland's Spider-Man Far From Home, and there is a deep fake version of that trailer with none other than Sam Raimi's version, what's
Was it
his
Toby?
name? Tobey Maguire's face. A youthful looking Tobey Maguire is plastered over Tom Holland's face in the whole trailer, and it looks flipping authentic. It looks like they had cast him in it from the. It looks real, guys. It's unreal. Look up deepfakes on YouTube if you guys are interested. There's some really good ones.
One of my favorites is the Bill Hader interview.
Yes,
Where they did the Tom Cruise.
Yes. Yeah. So on Jimmy Fallon, Bill Hader has done a bunch of impressions, but Ross Marquand, who was cast as Red Skull in Infinity War because they couldn't get the original actor that did Red Skull, because Ross Marquand, for those that aren't familiar with him, he played the gay guy in The Walking Dead. Really sweet character, really good actor. This guy is multi-talented. He can do impressions of so many actors in Hollywood. And there are a bunch of YouTube videos where he comes on Jimmy Fallon and they have him stand up in front of a mic and he does all these different impressions like to a T perfectly, and they put deep fake faces on him of the actors he's impersonating. It's insane. He sounds like the actor and he looks like the actor because of deepfake technology. Now, deepfakes is a little different than de-aging, but same kind of concept. You're CG layering someone else's face over it through previous old footage captured of that actor. And with de-aging, you're taking the actor's face and literally scrubbing a CG version of their face over it. I forget the recent film with Will Smith in it where he is his current self, and he is fighting. It's like a sci-fi movie where he is fighting against a 90s version of himself. It's Will Smith's current movie. It's not out yet. Maybe Nick can look it up for me real quick.
Yep.
But dude, Will Smith didn't have a stand-in actor. He acted out both parts, but through de-aging, they CG'd his 90s face, from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air 90s Will Smith over himself, and he acted as his young self versus his old self. It's nuts. It's seamless. You guys gotta look up the trailer. Nick is looking up what movie it is. It's Will Smith.
Gemini Man.
Mm-hmm. Dude.
Oh. I'm on IMDb, and I'm kind of excited. I'm seeing two movies that I've been wondering what they're going to do, and one's in post-production. Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah, they're coming back with Bad Boys.
And then in pre-production, we got Bad Boys 4.
Oh, but is he in both of those? Is that both from the same franchise?
He's Mike Lowry.
They're doing two movies? He's one of the main
detectives.
They're working on two more movies?
Yeah.
Jeez.
No, and the one that I'm also excited about is I was actually wondering if they were going to explore the universe a little bit more. It was announced by Netflix, apparently. They're working on Bright 2. Mm-hmm. He's coming back as Daryl Ward.
I knew they were coming back. I knew Netflix was going to do a sequel to that. But
it didn't go so well critically.
But it did good for Netflix, though. They got enough viewership on it that it justified them making another one. But that all aside, we went on a big tangent just to say that when we're talking about Rambo, let's get back. Let's get back to Rambo. We're talking about Sylvester Stallone, now in his 70s, guys. He's in his 70s, and he's doing Rambo one more time. The funny thing is like, I mean, if they wanted to, I don't want to see this. No one is asking for this, but with de-aging, I mean, let's quick tangent. Someone brought up a good point with de-aging, and Harrison Ford, he don't want nothing to do with Star Wars anymore. But let's be honest, they could have, with the current technology they have. They didn't have to recast him for the Solo spin-off movie. They could have brought Harrison Ford back in, de-aged him, and he could have, regardless of the critical flop or fan panning of that movie, writing could have saved it. The performance wasn't bad. The actor that did play as him was great, but regardless of anyone's opinion on the Solo film, they could have put Harrison Ford in, man. I think it would have brought a few more tickets into the seats, is all. Butts and seats at the theater. That's all I'm saying. And he wouldn't want anything to do with it. But all I'm saying is just consider that concept. Technology is so good, they could have done that.
Yep.
That's all. Let's get back to thoughts on Rambo. You're pretty excited overall.
I'm stoked. It's the first trailer I saw. It was actually going through this whole thing, and you see stuff blowing up, people getting killed by Rambo, and then you see the words come across the screen: "Stay off his lawn."
Yeah, I saw that trailer.
That's the old man you don't want to mess with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, and there is some good action too. Like that guy is still moving around.
Oh,
You know,
he's still got it. You see it in like what was it? What was that mix mash of action hero movie? The
well, hold on. I'm on Sylvester Stallone. He's in it, right?
yeah. He's like
Scrolling down, The Expendables.
Expendables. Yep.
The Expendables 3. Damn, it came out in 2014.
Yeah, he's getting.
They're about
old
due
as
for a fourth one,
fuck.
right?
They announced the fourth one. Him as Bonnie Ross.
Oh dear God. Hold on, he's got some upcoming projects. I don't mean to go off on a tangent here. Yeah, Expendables 4. Oh my God, what's that slated for? Doesn't the plot is unknown, in development, doesn't have a release year. So probably 2022 or later. Jeez.
As long as he don't die on us.
Yeah, or film him before he dies. Well, he's in his 70s. Let's be honest. A lot of actors that are still going he looks in good shape still. So I would say, assuming cancer don't take him over, not making jokes of that, but we might get him for another decade at least, hopefully. Freaking Ian McKellen is still kicking butt. Freaking Patrick Stewart. Good God, that guy is in his 80s and he's coming back for a Star Trek series.
Picard, and the trailer for that looks freaking amazing. But we're not talking about
yeah.
TV stuff.
We'll come back to more of those nerdy things later. Anything else to say about Rambo? Rambo has caused us to go on 5 different tangents already, Nick.
It's all right. Yeah, no, that's the thing that I'm getting at though. I'm so glad Hollywood is grabbing this nostalgia horse by the reins and saying, "Hey, we know people want it."
You know, Nick,
it's not a matter of people being old and no one wants to see old people on the screen. No,
right.
People want to see what happened with their heroes.
Well, and on a side note, let's briefly reflect on 2010 versions of ourselves. Back in 2010, around that time, when you would tell us about reboots, revivals, continuations, we would scoff at them and be like, "Come on, Hollywood, you're running out of ideas. What the hell?" You know, we were at the time we were like, nobody wants this. Guess what's
Come
making
out with new ideas?
Guess what's making more money than anything in 2019?
Reboots.
Revivals, reboots, and continuations, dude. That's the name of the game for Hollywood right now. And you know what? I think at this point we're embracing it as fans, and we don't care anymore at this point.
Well, here's the thing. I'm okay with reboots, revivals. I'm okay with continuations, as long as they don't hash out the same boring crap. If they're hitting it at new ways of looking at it, I'm okay with that.
As long as it's a good story. I think that's what it comes down to. Back in 2010, Hollywood was going through a ream of stupid stories for the sake of bringing back old franchises. I think there's still some sour ducks out there, some nasty things that are not hitting those marks, but I'd say there's a good chunk of things now that are actually good and decent, and I think that's why we're excited for it.
A good example, Star Wars prequels. I know not everyone agrees with me. The CG was awesome. It looked great. But the story writing, to me, it slapped Star Wars as a franchise in the face.
Yeah, no, it did, and we
wanted a story, and we got glitz and glitter.
And that's where the original fan base, the ladies and gents in their 40s and 50s, those people are the ones that scoff at the prequels because of the crappy story. It's not that they didn't look beautiful. The prequels are gorgeous, but yeah, the stories left a little to be desired. And that's all on George Lucas, but he rinsed his hands of it like Caesar. But bottom line though, I think there's good traction with a lot of things that we love. And I think, and here's the thing, we always talked about how if you're bringing it back, be faithful to the original stuff.
Yes.
And I think not all of Hollywood, but a lot of Hollywood is finally embracing the nostalgia of the original stuff. And I think that's why fans are embracing more of it.
I know we said we weren't going to talk about it, but a good example of that is the new Terminator movie coming out.
Yes.
They
skeptics
quite literally
out there
are saying the last movies don't exist.
But I would say the vast one here, and that's the thing, is James Cameron, he let the studio run with it and he stepped away from it. And I think, he got busy with Avatar and other things. And to his credit, when he's involved, he makes things good. And he has two of the highest grossing films of all time, Avengers Endgame aside. He did the same but here's the thing, he did the same shady tactic with Avatar. He re-released it after it came out of theaters, and and Marvel's like, we're so close to beating the top dog, let's re-release it. And of course, fans that loved it as much as they did went back to theaters, and
They
brought
added
it
new stuff though.
To be fair, it was 8 minutes, which by and large, the Russo brothers and Marvel are both saying that it's not complete canon. It's like, it's bonus. It's footage that should have been included in a Blu-ray disc release. Featurettes, bonus footage. And it, it was 8 minutes, and they waited till after the movie was out of theaters to say, hey, we're going to put it back and add more content. So that there is a little bit of the shady tactic part of it, but because here's the thing, they wouldn't have made their money if they had said, hey, in a couple months we're going to bring it back in with extra content. Then some fans, not everyone, but some would have waited, and that would have shortchanged them on the money they would have made. So they waited. They let it run its course, and then they said, hey, we're bringing it back. But they waited till it was done, made as much as it could, and then they're like, okay, guess what? And guess what? Spider-Man Far From Home did or is getting re-released with some bonus footage. God dang it. And Sony's
Tangent
like,
again.
Yeah, Sony's like, we see what you did, Disney. We're going to try that. You made us $1 billion. Let's see if we can make it go a little higher. It's whatever. That's to the viewer's discretion. If you want to waste your money, go ahead. But they're not including it in the theatrical release. It'll probably show up as bonus content on the Blu-ray disc like it should have. But the fact is, they said, hey, we're putting it back in theaters with this extra scenes, couple here and there. And the end credit scene, I guess, which they did include, had an additional scene with the Hulk in it, and it wasn't even completely finished. It wasn't a polished scene. It was like pre-production, a little bit of CG, but it wasn't like completely fleshed out. And so it was definitely like, they were grasping at trying to make a few extra bucks. And that's what it was. And that's the truth. Take it for what it is. But anyway, I'm off my soapbox now, Nick.
It's all right.
Hollywood is making good waves. Nostalgia's great. Rambo looks exciting. I think it's time to get to the last part of our show tonight. It's a long one, guys.
Adventure.
I know. But don't worry, guys. As always, everything's time-stamped. So if you want to jump to one particular topic, feel free to click in the links below. That being said, guys, let's jump into TV Talk. Guys, welcome to TV Talk. We've got a couple specific topics to cover in our episode before we wrap up. So, Nick, you brought up a point off air about a really big thing coming up that I am hardcore nerding out about, and I think it'd be a healthy thing to jump into. So, Nick, what are we going to jump into right now?
Well, it's kind of appropriate seeing that you guys call me our comic book guru for our group. This is a major crossover event. It's CW's annual crossover event. The reason why this is so important is because this is going over the Crisis on Infinite Earths arc. And we're going to see some things we have never seen.
So, before you get to that, describe to our listeners that may not be in the know, what is the big theme or story of Infinite Crisis on Earths, or Infinite Earths, or what you just said?
Crisis on Infinite Earths is a continuation of last year's crossover event, where the Monitor was messing with an item that was causing reality changes. Every crossover that has been happening so far has been tying into the DC multiverse.
So, a quick preface, because you're doing a great job, Nick, but we don't talk a lot about the CW on our show, and in a large part it's because I'm behind, so I never make it a priority on this. But just to give our listeners who may be unfamiliar with this, the CW network, it has, 4 or 5 shows now that are based in the DC universe, that play on Prime TV. It's not on an app. You find this weekly episodes. Every fall there's a new season. Yep. And what shows do we have? We've got The Arrow, which is the longest running.
Yep. The Arrow, yep.
The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
We have Supergirl, which previously was acquired from, what was it, NBC?
I'm pretty sure it was NBC. Yeah.
Or CBS. One of those.
One of the two.
One of those weird networks. Anyway, they started things with season 1, and then it didn't do good enough for them. They passed it off to CW in a deal, yada yada. And then there's the 4th series,
DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow, which is kind of a ragtag group of time-traveling heroes, and they get into a lot of different shenanigans kind of thing, right?
But you are missing one.
No, I know. There's a recent 5th series that, are they on 2nd season now, or jumping into their 3rd? 2nd?
I'm pretty sure it's 2nd.
Black Lightning is their 5th series, which they introduced into CW that's not connected. And to be fair, Supergirl also takes place in a separate universe. So what's affectionately called the Arrowverse is based off of the Arrow and the Flash were the first 2 series to really kind of catapult the CW into this current frame of superhero shows. And they exist in the same universe together. They've had a few crossovers by themselves. Then when they got Supergirl, they treated her as being from a separate universe that also entered into a crossover because of the Flash. And then Black Lightning currently has not had any toes dipped in any crossovers yet. It's in its own standalone show. And so we've got 5 shows right now, still going strong. And the last 2 or 3 years of seasons, we've had, in the fall, there has been a crossover between all the series except Black Lightning.
Yep.
So now that everyone knows that may not have been aware, I'll kick it back to you. Where are we going now with this?
And another preface. Last year's crossover episode also is...
Was that Flashpoint?
No, last year's was Crisis.
It was just called Crisis, right?
I think it was Crisis on
Crisis on Earth, maybe.
Let me look it up for you.
That'd be good. Keep our facts straight.
All right, let me get these right here. List of crossover episodes. Okay. Crossover events. The first crossover event was the Flash versus the Arrow, where the Flash and the Arrow first meet. And then the second annual one was Heroes Join Forces.
Did that include Supergirl in that one?
It was DC Legends of Tomorrow, Team Flash, and Team Arrow to
Oh,
stop
okay.
Vandal Savage.
Oh, okay.
Um, the third one that first included Supergirl was Invasion.
Ooh.
It goes the Dominator storyline, if anyone knows what that is.
All you comic fans out there.
The one after that was Crisis on Earth X, where they started going more in depth into the whole multiverse. And then last year's was a big thing that is actually pointing towards what's happening now. It was the crossover event was called Elseworlds.
Right. That's the word.
And one of the other things for this is that Elseworlds crossover act as a point to introduce a new TV series that CW will be starting soon. Batwoman.
Yes.
Played by Ruby Rose.
I'm very excited about that concept because the CW and Warner Brothers DC proper have up to this point always kept, like the MCU, they've always kept their shows and movies, the silver screen, separate in concept, which is why prior to Supergirl, we had never had a Superman in the show, and prior to now, we had never had a Batman. And we're not getting a Batman, but we are getting the world that Batman exists in by is she considered a cousin to Bruce Wayne, Batgirl? I forget if this is that iteration.
No, the Batgirl version in here, I'm trying to remember. I think she was pretty much like adopted, kind of like.
But we'll dive into that in the future.
I watched it last year. It's been a while.
Yeah, I don't mean to stump you, Nick, Mr. Comic Guru, but what was that? But they did bring a Superman into the crossover with the Supergirl on the Supergirl side.
Yes.
From her world. So that was kind of exciting for TV show fans, being like he was since Smallville back in 2001, which ended in 2011. We had not had a proper Superman show or a Superman character until now when he was introduced. So let's keep moving forward. So Batwoman, is that what she's going to be? Batwoman.
Yeah,
it's going to be the first Bat character to join the CW, and so that in itself is exciting. We're going to actually get Gotham City for this. And
you actually saw dilapidated Gotham City in Elseworlds.
Nice. See, and fans not in the know, y'all can yank my nerd card. You can rip me apart online, but as a fan, donning the Superman shirt tonight, I got heavily into the CW, and because of the advent of streaming and so many shows out there, I got sidetracked and kind of unfortunately left the CW behind. But we will throw out some ideas for you fans out there who might be in the same boat as me as to what you can do to catch up. Me, I'm going to go hard and binge a lot of shows, because a lot of these at the moment are still on Netflix. So throw that out there to all you guys. All these shows currently at this time can be watched on Netflix still. But Nick, why don't you open up the gates to what we're expecting in this fall's major, I would say, record-breaking crossover for the network CW?
There's a lot of crazy, awesome things about this. With this crossover, we're going to have DC Legends tomorrow. We're going to have all of Team Flash, all of Team Arrow. We're going to have Supergirl and everyone tied in with her. And this will be the first iteration where we have Black Lightning and probably Thunder and Lightning.
From that show.
From that show, within the crossover. But on top of that, because the multiverse is so massive, they're also bringing in some other people. This crossover has been confirmed by CW.
So
we'll
cool.
have a first for a character that everyone loves. The character has been playing the voice of Batman since 1992.
I think that's accurate. 92, 93 for the Batman animated series.
Kevin Conroy will make his first live-action debut as an older Bruce Wayne.
For all you fans out there or non-fans, that is the canon of Bruce Wayne's spirit and voice.
Yes,
Kevin Conroy.
He will, as far as I'm reading, he will be portraying the older Dark Knight version of Bruce Wayne, when he's older, kind of taking a back seat, kind of too old to fight, but still needs stuff done. And on top of that, from the original 1966 Batman,
Going really far back.
Yeah,
Say that
Burt
again, sorry.
Ward's going to be in it.
Dude.
And if people don't know who Burt Ward is, Burt Ward was the original Robin.
I gotta know. Are they gonna throw him in some spandex, or are they gonna go Nightwing with him? What are they gonna do with him? Like,
I have no idea, but
like,
I think
oh my
it would be
God.
killer to see like him throw a punch on someone and you get a pow on the screen.
I would applaud and praise the CW for throwing in at least one of those as like an Easter egg, man.
Or it's just like he punches them and there's a billboard behind him that says "pow," just
Yes.
kind of like wink at it.
Put it in
It would be
context of
hilarious.
put it in context of the world. Oh, of present day context. Oh man.
Yes. And it has been we will see John Cryer's Lex Luthor from the Supergirl series. We will see Lois Lane from the Supergirl series, and Tyler Hoechlin. I think it's Hoechlin. He's the Superman from the Supergirl. We will see him in
Right, he'll be coming in
On
as a Superman.
Yes, thank you.
Ooh.
Brian Ruth is in
Brandon
the
Ralph.
Brandon Ralph. Sorry.
Yeah,
you know what I
you're
meant.
fine.
I meant
He plays
what I said,
he
but
plays
said
the
what I meant.
Atom in Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes, Ray Palmer, the Atom. But he will be reprising a role he played not too long.
2006. It's been a while.
We
actually.
were introduced to
Brandon.
Brandon Ruth as Superman in
Superman Returns.
Superman Returns. Yes, he donned the blue and red with the cape and the spandex. But he will be reprising his role, not as that version of Superman. It's
As another Superman.
Yeah, everything I've been reading points to him being kind of like the Kingdom Come version of Superman.
He was seen at a panel not too long ago, maybe even at Comic-Con, where he had the symbol for that version of the Superman on a T-shirt that he was wearing. Freaking nuts,
but
dude.
he will be he will be playing the Atom and another version of Superman.
So nuts.
I'm super excited.
Any other casting? I know it's not confirmed, but they, I think, are trying really hard to get Tom Welling to come in.
I actually have an article up on my screen so I can read it to you.
Go for it.
According to World Firma on Twitter, Welling confirmed the news at Armageddon Expo in New Zealand during a panel. He reportedly said, "I will be on Arrow next season." He did reportedly turn down a chance to play Superman in CW. They actually asked him to be
Further
Superman
in the past
Supergirl.
or for this currently?
Back in the past.
Okay, in
but
the past,
he did confirm that he will be on Arrow this season. So I don't know if it's going to be during the spinoff or if it's going to be
he's just making a cameo appearance as a different
character. Yeah. But they pointed to Smallville Tom Welling in the last crossover. I'm going to kind of spoiler warnings on this because I know you haven't seen it, Joe.
I think I'll put a spoiler warning for this entire segment because we're talking about stuff that maybe not everyone's seen.
But when you do see this, you're going to get so much nostalgia. There's the scene where they go from the Flash to the Arrow to Supergirl. They go to the world there, and she's on the Kent farm from Smallville. You see the aerial picture come in like it's starting the show, and the song plays.
Oh my God!
And I about shat myself when I heard this. I'm like, what? No.
Oh.
It was beautiful, and I had a tear running down my eye. I'm like, yes! And then it didn't show the characters. I'm like, damn it!
No, but they made a heavy nod.
Ah, yes. It was beautiful. You will have to watch it.
I'm gonna play some heavy catch-up, listeners. There's.
Um,
Whew.
And speaking of ketchup,
Is there anything else before we get to that?
Yeah.
Any other news that you've heard? Is that what we know up to this point?
that's the big ones up to this point. There was some speculation that the original Wonder Woman, I forget her name, was going to come back as the character.
Oh shoot!
But
Nerd card revoked.
she has confirmed that she's not going to.
Well.
Linda.
Oh, Carter.
Linda Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was from the 80s, I think, or was
Yes.
it earlier?
But she has
Yeah.
been in the Supergirl series.
She's made an appearance. The actress.
No, as 2 seasons, she was the president of the United States.
Oh snap!
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
But to kind of tie this up, that's the casting news we know up to this point. For fans and non-fans, give me a recap if you can of what caused. What's the climax or cause of Crisis on Infinite Earths as far as the comic books are concerned? I forget how it ran, what caused it or what they were up against that caused them to all meet up, kind of thing.
the book of
I
what
know,
is it?
I know it's not going to be the exact plot that the CW takes, but they're making a lot of heavy legwork here to bring in so many characters that I'm wondering if they don't follow really close to at least what caused the crisis.
Yeah.
Is the Monitor coming back, or is it Brainiac or something?
It's the Monitor in this one. Because they were fighting the Monitor in on Elseworlds.
Right.
So the natural progression for this is the Monitor is actually going to take a bigger part in this. But if anyone's followed the comic books, you have the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. The Monitor isn't actually the evil side of it. He's just testing everyone to figure out what he needs to stop the end of everything.
Ooh.
So we're going to actually get... the character's going to be playing 2 different people. He's going to be playing the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor.
Right.
So hopefully we're going to see the conclusion to that in a way. But it's...
Yeah, that makes the most sense. So something
Yeah,
that
I have a
they're
I have
going
a
to
plot
cause.
synopsis right here. On Earth 90, the Flash escapes as a mysterious figure uses the powerful book to destroy Earth. On Earth 1, the same figure gives a book to the Arkham Asylum psychiatrist. It's the book of like destiny or something. But
Does
this
it have anything
allows...
to do with the Book of Rao, or is that something different?
I think it's something different.
Okay, never mind.
But this book allows the user to write reality. Have the powers of a god to write reality in any way they want.
Heavy.
That's why we got Elseworlds and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of details on it because things happen, and it's really cool how they address this. But you get some characters that are awesome from the comic books and from the original like cartoons, like the Justice League cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
This Elseworlds crossover is pretty much, to me, the closest we've gotten to the Justice League. And it's just like all right there in front of you, slapping you in the face. And it's beautiful.
Nice.
Kind of like that scene from Smallville when you see them walking away from the fire, just lined up like that.
Yeah.
How you got that feeling?
Yeah.
No,
Smallville did a Justice League thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is... I can only see this go better.
Dude.
But the good thing about this Elseworlds, the following seasons of all the other shows are focusing on the fallout of what happened in Elseworlds. Every single show is focusing on that.
Yeah, because it changed the direction for each show.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, man.
But yeah, no, it's they're trying to stop the Monitor from destroying everyone because they think he's the bad guy. He's honestly just trying to figure out how to save everyone.
Yeah. And then enter Anti-Monitor, and we get a whole mess of things.
Yeah. So it's going to be epic. It's going to be pretty much a conclusion of the last year's crossover.
Now, do you know when the crossover airs? Like, when does it start? Is it in December?
All 5 Arrowverse shows will take part. So it will be a 5-part crossover event. Arrow, Supergirl, The Flash, DC Legends of Tomorrow, and Batwoman will all have starring episodes.
Okay. So yeah, Black Lightning will be involved, but they're not.
It says Black Lightning will also participate.
But the Black Lightning show itself won't have its own part. He'll just be showing up in the other 5 parts with these other shows because of the crossover. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and because the time that their show airs isn't during the same time as the other ones.
Right, because Black Lightning and Supergirl swapped when they premiered their seasons once they introduced Black Lightning.
Yes.
So they did.
So because Black Lightning won't be running at the same time the crisis happens, they're just going to pluck characters from the show.
Right.
And so plug them in. So
they'll still be there. They just the show itself won't have a separate part that you need to watch. So that
will premiere this fall.
That's like 4.5 hour movie.
The presentation in May, Mark Pedowitz confirmed Crisis on Infinite Earth would kick off in December, but conclude after the mid-season break.
Dang, so like 2 or 3 of the parts will happen, and then there will be a like cliffhanger break.
Yeah, it'll kick off with Supergirl on Sunday, December 8th, and continue on Batwoman on Monday, December 9th. The Flash on Tuesday, December 10th. After the winter break, during which no episodes will air, the crossover will pick up again on Tuesday, January 14th, with a new episode of Arrow.
Dang.
And conclude on the DC Legends of Tomorrow.
Dang. So we get a 2.5 hour movie, then we get a 2-week break, wondering how it's going to wrap up. So I wanted to kind of wrap up this excitement, Nick, by expressing what I'm going to try to do to get ready for it, and then
Kevin freaking Conroy.
I know. No, dude, I'm so excited about all of that. To be honest, guys, I'm really behind. I've seen 1 season of Supergirl, 1 season of The Flash, 3 seasons of Arrow, and nothing of any of the other shows up to this point. I did a rough estimate, and I've got like 300 episodes to catch up on. That'll take, if I watch nonstop, or let's say 8 hours a day, it'll take me roughly a month of binging to fully catch up. So I'm going to do my best, and for the sake of our listeners and us diving into it and those that are caught up, I might watch some recaps online. Nick, I wanted you to, the best of your ability, throw out a couple suggestions of what you think people who are as far behind as me might consider doing if they want to get in on this event and not feel completely lost or confused by it.
Well, good news. Most of the series is on the Arrowverse make a good point of doing a lot of like, this is what happened last season type thing to fill you in.
Recaps, yeah. In-show recaps, yeah.
The main thing I would recommend, if you don't plan on powering through everything and you just want to catch up and then go back and watch them all on your leisure time, what I'd recommend if you want to get to the point where you will understand what's going on, it's definitely
I know it's hard.
It's definitely worthwhile watching every single crossover episode.
Let me throw this out there for our listeners. Like, me who just wants to, I mean, I'm the fanboy, so I want all of it. You would probably tell everyone, if it were possible, just watch everything up to this point, because it will be a hugely enriching experience. But for those that are willing to forego the enrichment of all that, or just don't have the time to do it, where do we go from here, Nick?
You will be kind of out of the loop on some of the drama that's going on in each of the series. If if you do it this way, you will get the gist of what's happening, but you will be out of the loop on some of the drama with each of the series.
Like, yeah, the intricacies of the characters. Yeah.
Yeah. I would recommend finding videos that do a recap of each season of each of the shows. You could probably find them on YouTube. But the thing I would at least recommend is before every crossover, watch the episode before each crossover
That
on
leads
each
to
show.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, on each show. So Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, DC Legends. Watch the episode before because it always has a little thing at the end that leads into what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then watch the crossover episodes on each of them. So that's not like 300, 400 episodes of each of everything all together that you have to watch. That's a handful of 50 episodes, maybe. Top, max.
Even probably less, but I would say worst case scenario, what if I don't get time to do it, I might consider myself, my personal thought is I may hunt down, I don't have any links or suggestions on where to go, but I would maybe, for those out there, a quick thought is to YouTube.
I'll see if I can find one for you.
Like, yeah, well, that's what we'll probably do for fans. Like, between now and then, we'll find a couple really good recap videos that I'm sure there's a couple out there that would probably very easily recap all the major important points of events leading up to this. I'm sure there's a handful of YouTube stuff. And Nick, we don't have to look it up right now, but I'm just throwing that out there. Like, your suggestion is good. Like, look to the episodes themselves leading into it. Look for recap episodes at the end of each season or beginning of each season if you really want to go that far into it. Or try to find a couple summary recap videos on YouTube where someone has already like broken down the whole run leading up to this. I'm sure there's a handful out there. We'll try to find like the best one, guys, and give you guys a link to click on for those that really want to fast track their way to this event coming up, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I'm gonna try to dive in as much as I can to the episode stuff because Arrow is so good, The Flash is so good, Supergirl got really good going into season 2, and a lot of these shows are really spectacular if you give them the time. But this event is going to be crazy for comic book fans.
Yeah, the crossovers are just getting more and more epic, and they've gotten better each crossover.
Yeah.
The CW is pouring so much more money into each one that it's only going to get better from here, and we're seeing characters that we only dreamed we would see in these shows.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to say the character, but I was really excited about one of the villains introduced in the last crossover.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
It was.
So, guys, what you can expect from us in the near future is we will personally probably do a couple breakdown episodes at some point where we'll give you guys the spoiler warning and we'll just dive into all of it. And probably after the crossover event, we'll probably do a breakdown episode on everything at that point once we get past it.
And I will finalize my list of orders.
Yeah, Nick already started a best order to watch them in because the thing is these shows do premiere week to week and they are seasonal breaks, and there are episodes where they cross over each other's paths. Like early on in season 1 of The Flash, there's 2 different episodes, one at the beginning and one in the middle or towards the end, where the Arrow and the Flash meet up in each other's episodes. And there's a couple 2-parters in there. And unless you're watching, the hardcore way to do it would be look up the air dates and literally watch one episode of Arrow, then one episode of The Flash, and back to back. But Nick has gone ahead and already created a nice little binge watching way of catching up in proper order, where he says, hey, watch 8 episodes of The Arrow, watch 8 episodes of The Flash, then watch these 2 episodes back to back because they cross over, then finish up season of Arrow, finish up season of Flash. And so Nick is telling us right now he's going to try to put in the rest of the shows up to this point in an order that might work. I know it's a little bit of a task and a half, but we've got a couple months, roughly a month or two. We'll try to get it out sooner than that, so people have time to consider watching these if anyone wants to binge.
And we'll figure out a good place to put it on our website. What's our website, by the way?
Nerdentials Media. Nerdentialsmedia.com, guys. Links will be down in the description for all our connections, of course. And guys, when Nick does post that, it'll be at the top of our page. It'll be under latest articles, and we'll post it at the top of the page when we get to that point.
We do a lot of research for our shows and stuff. But if you guys hear of any rumors or anything like that about these shows or about the movies that we've talked about in our TV talk or movie talk, feel free to hit us up on our Discord, Twitter, or Facebook.
Or just, all of those, leave feedback or write up some suggestions on something you heard that maybe we didn't talk about. We're always open to including those things. We'll give you guys a shout out too on the show if you guys contribute anything that'll add to the conversation. Still in TV talk, guys. We're gonna stay spoiler free on this, so it won't be a super long topic by any stretch of the imagination. But me and Nick both watched a show in its entirety.
And don't worry, we're still saying super.
Yeah, we're still staying super. That's right. But we're going to get a little darker on the topic.
Yes, a lot darker.
Guys, me and Nick both finished The Boys, an Amazon Prime original series. It ran 8 episodes, roughly 50 minutes to an hour per episode. 8 full episodes of unadulterated, dark, gritty, adult take on the superhero genre. Let's start with, I'll read the synopsis, and then Nick, I want to give our listeners and viewers at home a spoiler-free review of our just opinion-based after I read the synopsis. So, synopsis, then get our spoiler-free thoughts, and I mean, right up. I'll actually put in the spoiler warning for anyone that wasn't aware that we were going to dig into it a bit. So, here's the synopsis for Amazon Prime's original series, The Boys. The Boys is set in a universe where superpowered people are recognized as heroes by the general public and owned by a powerful corporation such as Vought International, who ensures that they are properly marketed and monetized. Outside of their heroic personas, most are arrogant and corrupt. The series primarily focuses on 2 groups: the titular boys, vigilantes looking to keep the corrupted heroes under control, and the Seven, Vought International's premier superhero team, akin to the Justice League or the Avengers, if you will. The boys are led by Billy Butcher, who despises all superpowered people, and the Seven are led by the egotistical and unstable Homelander. A little bit of a Captain America meets Superman.
Billy Butcher is played by Carl Urban,
That's
and Homelander
right.
is played by Anthony Starr.
Good call. As a conflict ensues between the 2 groups, the series also follows the new members of each team. Hugh Campbell of The Boys, who joins the Vigilantes after his girlfriend is killed in a high-speed collision by the Seven's A-Train. A little bit of a Flash-like character for you DC fans. And Annie Starlight, a.k.a. January, of the Seven, a young and hopeful heroine, forced to face the truth about the heroes she admires. So that's a pretty nice little summary of kind of the overall thing we were delivered in these 8 episodes. Nick, if you don't mind, I want to throw it over to you. Give us your overall thoughts, opinions, and maybe even a rating.
Yeah. Just real quick, Huey Campbell is played by Jack Quaid, son of Dennis Quaid.
Yep.
And A-Train is played by Jesse T. Usher. And Annie, Starlight, is played by Erin Moriarty. But yes, quick rundown, non-spoiler version.
Spoiler free.
There was some different. Yeah, it was different than the comics, the graphic novel that I remember, but different in a good way, and the characters still popped off the page for me. It was gritty, it was dark, humorous, messed up, disgusting, all at the same time in such a beautiful way. And I am a big Carl Urban fan, and he was one of the things that brought this show to life for me. I like to see Carl Urban work. He's such a character.
I mean, he was incredible in Thor Ragnarok. Sorry.
Yeah.
Especially, never mind. Sorry. Go on.
No, he's just a great character. And a great actor. Seeing him in Judge Dredd and then this, it was a phenomenal show. I was hooked from the moment I started watching it. Just originally, the first episode, I was hooked out of sheer morbid curiosity.
Interesting take, yeah.
Because they start off brutal and the hits keep coming, and they directed it and shot this show like a train wreck. The things happening on screen, you can't believe they went there, and you have to watch like, what are they gonna do next type thing. And it was a very refreshing look on the superhero genre in general, because of how much we've seen superheroes lately. This was like the darker side of what superheroes are. Because I forget the quote, and this is horrible that I forget this quote. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And these superheroes embody absolute power. And we always see these superheroes upholding the law and making sure everyone's safe, embracing justice for all. And this points out how this power could corrupt these superheroes. And they corrupt them in the most wonderfully awful ways. And my rating for this, if we're doing a 10-point rating, are we doing a 10-point?
Let's just go. We'll finalize the nerdy system next week. Let's just go on a 10-point scale.
Well, me personally, I would give it a 10 out of 10.
Damn.
I know that just looking at the IMDb, their rating across the board is an 8.9 out of 10. That's almost 9 out of 10 out of 71,331 reviewers. Yeah. That's an insane rating for a show. And it definitely earned it. It's the creators are Eric Kripke and Seth Rogen. So they've made a lot of good stuff, and they follow through on this. They brought to this their A game. Amazon hit it out of the park on this one. I'm glad this finally came to fruition, because this has been on the back burner for years on multiple places.
Well, dude, talking about catching up, like they greenlit season 2 before the premiere of the pilot. Oh, before the premiere of the series. Because they
Yeah.
dropped, this is one of those series like Netflix where they dropped all 8 episodes on day one.
Boom.
Boom. And days before they dropped it, they greenlit season 2, and it's already well into production right now. So they clearly the creatives and directors there saw a good product to have enough faith to kick up a season 2 before they even saw what the fan reactions would be.
Yeah.
So 10 out of 10 for you, Nick.
10 out of 10.
All right. Let me just throw a couple more numbers at you. Aside from 8.9 on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes critically got an 82%, which is nothing to shy away from. Google users gave it roughly 97%. And so this thing across the board seems to be flying amongst most people's opinions and thoughts. I just want to start off by saying that I started watching this because Nick had already watched it completely and told all of us that we absolutely need to start watching it immediately. And most of the time when my buddy Nick is that in my face about something, usually is a good sign that I'm going to take something positive out of it. Not the least of which to say I took all sorts of enjoyment from watching it. I jumped right into episode 1, and like Nick said, within minutes of the opening, I was immediately hooked. It just hooked because, yeah, like Nick said before, it's took the superhero genre and flipped it on its head, spun it around, tied a noose around its neck, drug it down the street through spikes and dead corpses, and then hung it out to dry, and then I'm going on anyway. It did a lot of crazy things, not the least of which had anything to do with my description just now, but it did what it did with the superhero genre is it didn't just take the idea of what if superheroes were real in the world, but it took the really dark seated nature of mankind and what mankind would do with superheroes if they really existed in the world. It took the idea of a big corporation trying to benefit from the existence of these superheroes in the nastiest, darkest ways you could imagine them doing so. This isn't just, oh, these vigilantes are here, they want to keep us safe and help us. They are doing it in spite of us because they have somehow a group of corporate overlords are they're like holding some sort of weight over these heroes that makes these heroes feel that they need this corporation in order to thrive in life. And that's where the really dark-seated nature of these heroes, the lives they lead, kind of takes off with it. And so the show as a whole, though, like my feelings on the whole show, the show has 8 episodes. It's a fantastically perfect length for a binge watching based series where they give you all the episodes up front, like Netflix. And more so in the fact that the writing is really tight, really well paced. There's no slow spots. There's slow moments, but those moments are only slow to just kind of show you more intimate moments with the dark nature of all these different characters and the innocence of some of these characters. But there's no slow spots when it comes to plot driving, and they do not shy away from. I mean, guys, this is 100% adult. Do not. It's a superhero movie, a superhero show. It looks cool. You see the heroes in the trailers. If you've seen the trailer, you've already seen what lengths of gore they're willing to go through to showcase the realism of what it would be like if a superhero really were next to you. How threatening would that really be if a mistake happened? That kind of thing, and to where what I'm saying is like, don't watch this with your kids.
At all.
At all. No, not even. I mean, teenagers see all sorts of weird things nowadays, but if you have little kids, do not watch it in front of them. There is everything under the sun that the MA rating could give you for a show. There is nudity. There is violence and gore. There is nudity and sex. And there's awkward things about all those things that make it really explicit and uncomfortable at times, but it is just so like it's more of a shock factor delivery in a lot of these situations, to where I don't think it grosses you out on the level of like The Walking Dead and guts getting eaten. Like, you get grossed out by that kind of thing, but like this is more just kind of shock and like, oh wow, I didn't know that was gonna happen. And so, and the acting is really good. What was his name? Quaid.
Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid. He was in the Hunger Games, and he was in a couple other things before this. He's getting bigger roles as we move forward, and after, with the success of this show, he's really good. He plays the character that the audience connects with. He is the bystander in a world of superheroes that has an okay life and then gets literal shit dealt straight to him out of nowhere, and then he has to find the courage to get past it and deal with his circumstances. And then, like in the synopsis, he joins the boys, the crew, the group. Billy Butcher, Carl Urban, leading the mission to stop the dark-seated nature of these heroes and expose them for what they are. And it plays on a lot of tropes too. Homelander, mentioned in the synopsis, is the pretty boy, upright, moral superhero. He's the Captain America in the beginning.
Superman.
He's the, oh my goodness, I hope I never get on his bad side level. Superman powers, strength and vulnerability, flight, all of that. You've got your Wonder Woman character. You've got the Deep, who is supposed to be an Aquaman character, who touts himself up as being better than he really is, treated by the rest of them, kind of more of a laughing stock out of the group. And the whole thing is just, there's a wide variety of personalities and characters in this show. The tension is real throughout, like from beginning to end. You are worried for Huey the whole time, the main protagonist that we follow. You're constantly worried about his life through all of this. And then I want to say, I went into this knowing season 2 was already greenlit, and that didn't change my mind. Like, I'm open enough to see something for what it is, and then be like, is Amazon shooting their load too early here, picking up a season 2 before they even see how it does? And honestly, the people, whoever screened it beforehand, saw what they had, and this thing is just absolute gold for being the type of series that it is. 8 episodes. We get a doozy of a cliffhanger, and thank God they greenlit season 2, because I'd be upset if the show had gotten canceled after that cliffhanger. That would be upsetting. Guys, I cannot recommend this enough. Like Nick, I don't see any sore thumbs or things poking out that are... I don't have any qualms or issues This thing for me is a 10 out of 10, dude. For and it makes me excited for potential future original shows that Amazon is going to continue working on. It makes me, on a side note, excited for the Lord of the Rings series that they're putting so much money into. I only have more hope for what they're going to bring with season 2, and I'm very curious as to where they left us, where we're going to go from here. Um, Other than that, guys, I mean, that was our spoiler-free review. Um,
Do you mind if I give a little background to the boys?
yeah, Nick, go ahead. Guys, at this point, expect spoilers to be potentially rampant. We won't go too much into it. I don't want to ruin it for too many people. We might do a deep dive of the whole series when season 2 comes out. Maybe we'll wait for season 2 as far as like going full spoilers on everything. But I think we can discuss a few points here and there. I want to be a little selective about it. Like I said, I don't want to ruin it for
Yeah.
too many people. I want people to actually check it out and be surprised by some of the things that we were surprised by. But go ahead and give us some comic book context, Nick, because I didn't even realize this was a comic book or graphic novel before you had mentioned that.
This was a graphic novel written by Garth Ennis, and the designer and illustrated by Derek Robertson. Garth Ennis is most known for, I have a list right here, his other graphic novels, The Preacher.
Nice.
He's known for doing Judge Dredd, Hellblazer. He did probably one of the best runs of The Punisher. So he's used to this gritty style superhero type stuff. That's who he is. That's what most people know him from. He helped with a game called The Darkness, if you've ever played that.
Yes, I played the first one.
He also helped with Hitman.
Nice.
So he's well known for those. There's some big differences between the TV show and the comic books.
Now is this going to be super spoilery by listing these differences, or
No,
you think
no,
keep
no.
it broad?
I'm going to keep it very broad.
Okay.
In the TV series, like you said, they're a group of vigilantes that are disgruntled about how the superheroes are getting away with everything. In the graphic novel, they took a different look at it. They were actually a clandestine CIA squad that was supposed to keep track of these superheroes and all the crap they were getting into.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's about the only part I'm going to reach into that, and that's the big change. But the characters themselves, you could almost read the comic, and the way the character reacts in the graphic novel is almost the same as in the show. They did a very good job of bringing them alive.
Nice.
All the main characters from the show are the main characters from the book. Mother's Milk, Frenchie, all of them. They're all part of the graphic novels. So they did a very big job on trying to transfer them from the graphic novel to the show, and they did it in such a way that was very
caring.
It was very caring, and most point they paid homage to the actual characters from the comic, the graphic novel.
Yeah, fans will definitely appreciate that if anyone's previously read the graphic novel.
Yeah, and this has been something that's been on the back burner for a long time. Back in 2008, Columbia Pictures actually got the option to make this into a movie.
Dang.
But they sat on it for so long, it eventually went over to Paramount, but then it just kind of fell on the wayside.
Yeah, it fell back on the shelf.
And then back in 2015, Cinemax actually greenlit a whole television series of this. And it had Seth Rogen, Eric Kripke, and Evan Goldberg.
Yeah.
But they were all set to do it. So they started working on it there, and it finally got taken by Amazon Studios to actually come to fruition. And I'm so glad that they did.
Yeah, after seeing the results of that long wait, I'm appreciative that it landed in the right hands, as it were.
Yeah. No, and if you ever get a chance to read this graphic novel, it's definitely worth it. It's not Garth Ennis' best work, but it's up there. It's great work. It actually won some awards.
Now, is it a single volume, or is there quite a bit to the boys? Is it ongoing?
There's quite a bit, but there's a few collections that you can
is
actually do.
Is there a number of issues that it ran to before ending, or is it still going?
Number of issues, let's see.
I was just curious.
72 issues.
So anywhere from 5 to 10 volumes of collected editions of it, probably?
Yep.
Nice. So, okay, without spoiling it for our listeners.
Collected editions, there is 12 of them.
Okay, so again, without spoiling the ending of season 1 for our listeners, can you give us an idea of maybe how much material they've covered in this show compared to how far the comics have gone, or are you kind of a little foggy on that? I don't, because
they probably covered about 10% of
the total
material.
amount of what's out there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
there's
solid,
there's
dude.
things that they kind of skipped over, but I feel that the way they did the show, they can come back to it.
Nice. Yeah.
And
as a show, they've got to leave room for being able to go back and forth with things, to keep it going.
And they're going to use some of those points to give more of those shock and awe moments.
Yeah, of course.
The blitzkrieg of your senses moments.
God, dude, I want to. I don't want to do it here or now because we are real super late into the night in this recording, but I think I can definitely promise our listeners that either in the coming weeks or definitely by the time season 2 lands, we are definitely going to bust wide open everything about this, because there's so many concepts, characters, and scenes that happen that I want to talk about, but I want our listeners to still be able to get that shock value when they first see it, without ruining too much.
Oh yeah.
This thing got. I will. A couple final notes from me. You can expound upon or add a couple more yourself after this. I was intrigued by, and not ruining anything plot wise, but I was intrigued by some of there were definitely political government based aspects that the show covers, obviously based on the fact that superheroes are run by a corporation, and that corporation is trying to bank money on them. So there's going to be political angles thrown in there. I was sort of surprised, but also more so intrigued by some of the religious angles that they brought in. I'll make one point. I'll make one point that I won't spoil anything, but just make one point that I do have a Christian Bible-based background. Me and Nick both do. But for me, Nick, I was appreciative that the Christian aspects of that religious angle that they did play into for some of the plot wasn't really in my face about it. And it was not just interesting, but I think they did a good job of using that for the benefit of the plot without, they didn't, in my opinion, they didn't offend me going into anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to ruin any major plot points here, but they do, there's some religious, kind of, not overtones, in your face aspects that they do definitely play into. But they didn't, it wasn't to make fun of anything. It definitely carried the plot forward. I feel like
it just pointed to the fact that the power corrupted everyone.
Yeah, because I guess to not confuse our listeners by what I'm trying to get at is one of the things the show plays on is the fact that these heroes are idolized across the board in religions and as celebrity status. Because they don't just do the day-to-day hero thing. They have parades. These superheroes starred in movies about themselves. Literally, like, wouldn't that be the greatest thing? We don't need to do special effects. We'll literally just hire Superman himself to star in this movie. We don't need any special effects. We'll just film him doing his thing. Things like that, athleticism stuff, A-Train running the track, being the fastest man alive. They had a competition where he was running against another speedster that was almost as fast as him. There's drug use in this show. Without going into plot details, this show covered a lot of angles about corruption across the board and them being treated as celebrities, how that could easily not just go to their head, but also play into their abuse of their celebrity status.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of, I don't have much more to say without breaking down, spoilers. Do you have any other concluding thoughts on this before we wrap up, sir?
No. It was. I could just say it was a fantastic show. I loved it. And I would definitely recommend watching it.
Yeah, this is
It's definitely worth the time.
This is one of those shows I want to rewatch just because it was good. It was so good because of that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it again myself. And I would definitely encourage anyone if they can to read it. The graphic novel will kind of point out some stuff that we're hoping for in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I want to give enough time for the average person to have checked it out, and then we'll do something of a spoiler cast at some point soon.
And if you check out on our webpage, do we have that up yet? My review?
Yeah, by the time this recording drops, you guys can go check out Nick's review of said show. It will be on our website. I'm putting the finishing touches on it, figuratively right now. So by the time this episode airs in the next couple days, that review will be on the website by the time you guys hear this.
Awesome. Because we do more than just podcasts. We try to make sure you guys get some written reviews of some shows, movies, things like that. And while you're on there, go ahead and check out some of our older reviews. There's some good worded reviews of some past shows we've watched.
Yeah, and we do occasionally do retrospective reviews even on older things because there's a lot of good stuff out there. And we're always adding to our review archive, guys. So anytime you want our thoughts on something, one of us has, all of us have written reviews at different points, and we continue writing those. So,
and I'm not everyone's always happy about it, but we are proud to say that we try to keep our reviews honest, and not always do our reviews reflect the whole feeling of the entire crew.
Yes, if we're gonna peel back the curtain for half a second, we do have a scathing review on a show recently of very nerdy, from a very nerdy basis, and I would say that there are very dramatically different opinions amongst the hosts here. And if you guys have heard us for any length of time, you know that me and Nick do not always agree, but as lead editor of the website, I still posted said review.
And I appreciate it.
Even if I didn't agree with it.
But one of the good things about that is it shows the validity of that we're not all toting the same company line.
Oh, and all of it's based in good hard facts and good faith in our opinions too. It's not, we don't fluff anything up like if only one person in our entire group absolutely loved a thing. It may not be the review you read. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up our review of The Boys. And it's going to wrap up this whole long-ass episode. I dare say this is going to be over 2 hours, guys. But it's going to be 2 hours of beautiful conversation.
And everyone that tagged along for this adventure, we thank you.
We do thank you for your support and your time. And shout out to Lynn. Sir, we're sorry you couldn't make it to the end. You're not the true MVP. At least this time. But guys...
Oh, keeper of the pillow.
Yes. Well, he had children to deal with. We can't fault him for that. And it's really late, guys. Latest we've ever recorded, I do believe. But I'll keep that a secret for another time.
Yeah.
Guys, You can now listen to us in many new places. We are now officially on Spotify and Stitcher Radio. Previously, Spotify was a lot more selective in their podcasting, but they've pretty much opened the gates. They have an entire podcast section now. So if you guys have Spotify, it's on all phones, all platforms. You guys, Android or Apple, get Spotify or Apple iTunes. And guys, one other thing we would deeply, deeply appreciate, guys, go give us a review on any of those platforms that you find us on. 5 stars if you feel it's deserved. We'd love to give you guys a shout out for anyone that writes in a review. It helps us be seen by more people like you. But in conclusion to all of this, reviews, videos, gameplay stuff, all sorts of pop culture, guys. We have one major location where all of this can be found. Go to nerdentialsmedia.com. That, my friends, is where all you crazy nerds, gamers, and geeks can find all our wonderful content.
And if you ever want to join in with the conversation, we do have a Discord. You could join us on there, or feel free to Twitter. We do like to hear your comments. We do like to hear your ideas. If there's anything you want us to cover, please let us know.
Yeah, shout out at random. Facebook, Twitter, email. Guys, throw out any kind of suggestions. We are always open to dive in deeper into pop culture. That being said, thank you for your time and support. And this has been your Nerdy Essentials, my friends. As always, nerds, we'll see you on the other side. Close. The first one was more perfect, but you know, whatever.
You have to just clip that in there.
Nick, it is 2:30 a.m.
Oh, good night.
Peel back. Oh, whoa.